you blended a very easy listen.
Yeah, thank you, man.
So hard to
do it is.
the Negro problem.
Yeah.
Like, how do you make that song listenable? Because what I noticed today when I was doing my umpteenth listen, you created an album that is great to hear and also a great listen.
Great to listen
and
to, great to hear.
When you listen to an album the first time, audience, guests that are tuning in with us the first time because we have a chance to rap, you feel me? When you listen to an album the first time, you're usually hearing it. You can't digest, you can't fully listen to it because 100%. You're getting something new. Yeah. So that second, third, fourth, fifth listen is when you're actually listening to the album. Facts. What I'm saying about Chance's album is the first time you play it, it naturally sticks to you because it sounds so good, and that's what you're hearing is a music that sounds good. With songs like The Negro Problem, No More Old Men, how did you make that connection so seamless?
Yeah, thank you for even noticing that. That was like one of the biggest hurdles for the project and one of the things I was focused on. Yeah, production is everything because music at the end of the day is music. You know what I mean? Like I was saying this the other day, like sometimes I would write with the intention of somebody reading my lyrics because that's how I used to interact with hip hop. Was I used to print people's lyrics off of lyric websites and just read their lyrics.
Shout out Rap Genius.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out Rap Genius. Before that, we used to have something called AZ Lyrics.
AZ Lyrics.
And before that, we had something called Metro Lyrics. So there was all these websites that I go to and I print out lyrics and read them. And like that's how but Rap Genius was really important for annotating and like seeing the meaning behind stuff. So I always loved that part of hip hop. Right. But the problem is you get so deep in that bag that you start, making lyrical miracles, which you know what I'm saying, it's not fun to listen to over and over again. Right. And I think when I was making, for a long time before the project came out, I was kind of teasing out different records. I put stuff on, Instagram only, or
Twitter,
YouTube
Stars.
only.
I remember like listening to Stars out the first time. Like, this is it. Like,
this is Stars. I was when I started to hit the stride of being like, I just want to make stuff that sounds good. I actually made that in Atlanta. I made a couple of them. I made Space and Time in Atlanta.
Yeah, Space and Time is Atlanta. That's tough.
Yeah, a lot of songs I wrote back in the day. I wrote Same Drugs in Atlanta. A lot of ballads for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I think like when I was making it, I wanted to make sure that some of the songs that I did release in that time period leading up to it, they were great writing exercises or great raps, but it wasn't necessarily a song that I want to play over and over again. One of my best examples of it is there's a song called The Quiet Storm, which I think is like one of my best, most well-written songs, concepts, all that thing. But I don't like listening to it over and over again. Right. And I think, that comes down to like chord structure, to, what the chorus is, like what the hook is, you know what I'm saying? Right. Production, sampling, all that stuff. So I think there was a point in the album where I got like to a point where I understood how to paint with my lyrics. Like, okay, I know the concept, I know how to rap it, I know which words to use that are going to give it the right descriptive flourish. And then I had to reset and be like, okay, let's, dig back into these samples and like pick things that are going to like, immediately catch you. So like the first few songs, there's a lot of really memorable samples. The first one, you get The Life Will Be, Cleo Soul. That originally had a Jackson 5 sample on it that we took out. We couldn't get it clear, but there was that sample, and then the second one has the One Way, the Al Hudson One Way sample. You get to Negro Problem, you get the interpolation of Anita Baker. But throughout the whole album, even Drapetomania, it's got the dip, baby, dip, like that.
Dip,
you know what I'm saying? It's got certain things that are callbacks to your childhood, and a part of my experience growing up that, I think when people hear it, there's a comfortability level. Because you were making a great point. When you listen to music the first time, there's like, number one, you're spot on that you can't listen. You can really only hear because it's all so new and there's so many different sounds, ideas, pitch, rhythm, melody, like all these things that are coming at you at once. So it's a long time before you can even start to break down concepts, yet alone like, the meaning behind the album. But also I think like there's a bit of like at least for me, an anxiety that I get when I'm having to listen to a new album for the first time, especially if it's somebody that I care about, like if a Kendrick album comes out or a Ye album, Drake album, something that like I know I'm waiting on.
How do you think I felt when Carter 6 came out?
You know what I'm saying? But it's a thing of like, also there's like, it always feels like there's hella tracks. Like, even if it's just 13 tracks, when you first listen, you're like, all right, like, how many more songs do I got to go? Like, before I can make up my mind on how I feel. So, like, I was trying to make sure that on that first listen, you weren't, you know, itching to get through it. And so that's how I was working on it. And then as I got to the end of the project, I was like, I started to remind myself that there are repeat listens that are going to come later. So it's like, I can try and make it as, you know, succinct and, like, compact as possible, but then also, like, I'm doing a disservice to the music because there's some people that are gonna, you know, want to come back to it later and find more things. So,
right, definitely. Like you mentioned that first listen experience. You know, we of course as a podcast, like, you know, big first listens. That's like a lot of what this space is.
Yeah.
But you know, we kind of try to do it differently where, you know, we know people are gonna come and look for our first listen, and then in the first listen we're like, hey, this is still the first listen. Like, Drock is really good with this where we're going to come back in a couple weeks after we've read everything, after we listened to everything. And it's funny you mentioned, like, how your reaction, like, how you'll try to go in with that anxiety, like, kind of like Game 4 of the finals, like, you want Kobe to play well.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, going into this Chance album, we're big on not having expectations for somebody's album. Like, there's things we want to hear or a certain sound or style we want an artist to use, but we kind of don't want to go in like, this isn't this, so I'm gonna be mad.
Right.
This was one of the few albums that we were both like really excited for, like expectations in a good way, just like the rollout, the intentionality, like the writing exercises. Like, how do you think the preparation before anything was put out helped with just the listen for the people who heard it the first time and just yourself making it, like, you know, when you're playing the album for people and having them write down like what they thought? Like, how did you think that helped the process?
All of those experiences were like, and I think about it every time. That's why I'm like, man, this album is so deep. Not to just like keep tooting my own horn, but like,
No,
listen.
Kobe Roxy.
You feel me?
Listen. You on tour, toot your shit. Talk your shit.
It's been like 10 minutes. We for sure here to dick ride.
Yeah.
Pause for sure though.
No, I think it's like I really did like get into a space of like, I want this album to be everything I believe it can be, just in terms of execution on song creation. And that took a lot of experience. So like, I always talk about the trips to Ghana being extremely formative. I don't know that I talk enough about the arts and like what it really, you know, what really transpired in terms of me traveling to Switzerland and to Venice, Italy. There's this big art fair called the Venice Biennale. When we first started getting into like working with artists and stuff, I was told like, if you want to be in the arts world and meet some great painters and sculptors and people, you got to go to Venice Biennale. And so I went out there with my producer, my really good friend that helps me with a lot of videos, Troy Gano, and with Joey Badass. And we was just, you know, the only rappers in that bitch. And we was like, and we was not invited. We just went to that shit. Yeah. And so we learned so many different important lessons in that trip. You know, we got to be in community with some of the top black artists in the world, but we also got to see firsthand how some of those black artists who really anchored the festival that year weren't invited to all the parties, didn't have all the credentials, didn't have the support. So on the last night of Venice Biennale, and this is a historic thing that will be talked about forever, we threw, you know, a black artist appreciation night at this little shitty dive bar, like away from the fair and everything, and just invite only, had all these people in there. And it was crazy if you could see, like, it was literally, you know, like white curators on the outside on the glass, like putting money up to the window, like please let us in. Wow. Like, I can't hear you. It's so lit and black in here. I'm sorry. Like
all this black talent on the inside, we can't hear you.
But it was like, you know, Simone Yvette Lee and Hank Willis Thomas and, you know, Amwako and all these like Ghetto Gastro, like all these like top tier, like worldwide global artists that were all feeling the same way. And then we got to all feel good on the last night. Right. And I really think that my time spent around these people and getting to see their art and the intention they put behind their art really inspired me to be like, okay, no, I really paint when I'm rapping. Like, when I'm rapping, I'm painting a picture for people. So what are all the, you know, sensory descriptive words that I can use? What are all the references that I can use? What are the different styles or mediums that I can use?
Right.
And like thinking about it from that standpoint allowed me to really like contextualize all of it, because there's so much in the album, like, you know, a million motifs and a million different histories and subject matters. And, you know, it's as much about, you know, the way that Black people move in America and the world as at large as it is about myself and dealing with fame and dealing with relationship and dealing with. So it's like all of these sprawling ideas that I wouldn't have been able to, you know, put out in such a clear way if I didn't spend so much time with Amwako or with Nilo Bianga, or, you know, a lot of the visual artists really like inspired me. And even ones I didn't meet, you know, I've said a couple of times, Ernie Barnes, damn, I can't remember the name of the series now, but Ernie Barnes' series, as well as Lorraine O'Grady's Art Is, really big, like, you know, art movements or series that like influenced the whole way I attacked the album.
In that process, yeah, that's awesome.
To continue the part about you taking a lot of time to travel, going to different countries. In one of your interviews, you mentioned you had a conversation with your grandma before you went to Ghana.
Yeah.
And you spoke about, she told you a lot about how your family and how a lot of you guys originated from over there, and it really, really impacted you and your trip over there. Can you talk about that conversation?
Yeah.
And then how that impacted the album, and if you have like a specific bar or song that was the optimum of what she meant by that or what she gave you in that conversation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my family didn't originate from Ghana, to my knowledge. I never did know. I'm not giving them niggas my spit or my hair or none of that shit.
Yeah, no, I can't believe niggas.
I don't know what the DNA test would say. But what my grandmother taught me about was the recent histories of my family in Ghana. So I think sometimes, especially us in Chicago, I think we kind of otherize Africa or the continent and our relationship to the continent because it feels so distant. And the truth is, like, there's a lot of like cross-pollination and like, I don't know, like just there's
like
a lot
crossover between it, right?
Yeah. So my grandmother basically told me something I didn't know, that my family had been going to Ghana and working with the churches over there. Yeah. So I forget what was I talking about?
Your trip to Ghana.
Yeah. So my great